Welcome back guys to our final challenge for our reverse engineering chapter. In this one I find this challenge pretty amazing because it will recap everything we have learned so far. Not only in this chapter, also in the chapter before. So therefore let's have a look. So we are talking about the insecure bank application, which I really like. So the author of this one really appreciate all the work you have put into this one. This challenge consists of an APK and also a web server. So we have to set up a little bit stuff before. But don't worry, it isn't that much. What we have to do to get started with this one, first of all, we have to install it on our device. Okay, no problem. But then we are also having a web server which consists of Python, and therefore we require some modules to be installed first. So what we need to do next is we need to run pip3-r on the requirements.txt in the given directory. Don't worry, we will set it up together afterwards, but that you know what's going on over here. Okay, after installing all those requirements, we can then start our web server. And this is simply just in Python 3 app.py. I have converted it to Python 3 because the original application is designed for Python 2 and this doesn't work on modern systems anymore because Python 2 is now out of date. Therefore, I have already ported it for you. Okay, after installing all those requirements, we can simply run this Python 3 app.py file. And then the web server is running. And the mobile connection or the mobile application can make a connection to our web server over here. These are the steps we need to do. Okay, now's the question. We are having different setups and which setup we should use right now for this application. I mean, we've got our emulator, we've got a real device like this one over here, and we might have also this virtual machine, this x86 virtual machine. What should we use in which setup to do this right now? In my opinion, the best idea is using the emulator because this application has been designed to work as its best in the emulator. There's also some interaction with SMS and stuff like this, which might not work on the x86 virtual machine. You could also use your real device, but then please use a testing device. This application requires a lot of permission and yes, this might be something you do not want to run on your own private phone, okay? The x86 virtual machine might also work, but we lack a few features, for example the SMS feature or other things. So in case if you're running the system or the emulator on your host system, please go for the emulator. The user experience it's absolutely fantastic. Even if you're using a virtual machine, you can still use the emulator because you do not need to have much interaction with this application. And last but not least, there's this testing device. Alright, now some safety notes. I mean, these points should be clear, but nevertheless, let's recap this over here. I mean, we are running Python code on our system and we haven't written the Python code on ourselves. Therefore, we should have at least a quick look into this one. Nevertheless, we should always use only testing equipment. So a testing notebook, a testing VM or a testing device. Otherwise, if you mix testing with your private stuff, this could be absolutely horrible. So you never know what is happening. Don't get me wrong, I trust the author, but these are general recommendations we should keep in mind and also following this guideline through this course. In my case right now, I'm using the host system, which is a testing system, therefore I can easily run the emulator on the testing system. In case if you still want to separate those things, I mean you could use a virtual machine where you take a snapshot and where you select host only adapter. If you run this emulator on this virtual machine, it's super laggy, but it works. So it's not that nice, but you can perform all these tasks without having this running on your host system or without having a real device. In my case right now, I will run everything on the virtual machine, which will show that the user experience is not that nice, but it works there. So you could also do all these tasks without having a real device and without running this on your host system. Okay? Alright, so now's the question what we are looking for. And the answer is everything we have talked about so far. So this challenge is amazing because it will recap everything we have learned so far. I have not made these topics regarding to this challenge. This challenge has been made regarding to my topics. So we are looking for insecure activities, broadcast receivers, and content provider services, login credentials which are stored inside there and stuff like this. So this challenge is pretty amazing because it will reflect some real-world applications and their misconfigurations or coding errors. And therefore we now understand everything here to exploit them. For example, those activities. I mean, we are pretty familiar with them right now. And yeah, maybe you will find flaws where you can bypass certain features. So if you start another activity, it doesn't mean that we have successfully bypassed it already. We have to figure out if we can still do some task in there. because if this application requires some setup, for example, there are some login credentials which needs to be decrypted first, and if we skip this part, then the application might not function correctly anymore. But this is something we have to figure out. Regarding to the content providers, I have a special task for you. Let's assume we have hacked into this application, which is a banking application, and we have performed some malicious transactions inside there. There's also a locking feature within the content provider, and we definitely want to hide our tracks. So maybe you will find a way to get rid of these log files in there, which would be absolutely amazing. Last but not least, there's something going on with the login credentials. So there is an encryption, and there might be also some additional login credentials. So things you should look for in real-world applications also. I have taken a quick look into this application and have played around with these things, but there might be tons of other things inside there, which I haven't seen so far. So unfortunately, we cannot talk about all of them because then the video might be 4 hours long and no one wants to watch this. But I will also provide you some additional hints or features in a separate cheat sheet where you can have a look into if you're stuck at this right now, okay? At least you should give it a try. So we are now doing the setup together and then you can have a look into this application. Alrighty? Okay, let's have a look. Alright, so here we are back at the Ubuntu VM and now let's do the setup really quick together. So you will find all these files in the attachment of this section. And these files over here. So that's the Python web server and this one is the APK for our device. Alright. First of all, we need to have an internet connection and we need to install all those libraries and tools that Python requires right now. So pip3 install-r requirements. And then you can see I have already installed them. Okay, now we can simply start this web server by running python3 app.py. As already mentioned, internet connection is not required anymore. Okay. This Python web server is now running on all interfaces we are having. So let's see. This means we are having no IP address or internet face running up on here and here. So where should this emulator now connect to? This emulator has its own network interface from our Android Studio. So there's some DHCP settings and the IP address is 10.0.0.2, I guess. So this is pre-installed in this application. This means on this interface, we are having this 80808080 port listening right now, which is our web server, this one. And we can simply connect to this one. But to get this interface up, we first have to start our emulator. So let's do this. Emulator, and I do not know what's the name. So list avd, emulator, list avd. List AVDs. No, there was an S missing. Okay, that's the name. So emulator, and then add, and the name. Whoops, once again. That's not that fast anymore. Okay, now we have it. The emulator is starting and we are already getting this node running in virtual machine. In another virtual machine, it's not a good idea because they have to share those resources. And even one virtual machine, is struggling with this one maybe, but we can see the Nexus emulator over here, it's working perfectly fine. So even in a virtual machine. Okay, here we have the device and you can see, yes, that's well enough. All right, now we need to install this application. So Android Lab server, here we have it in Secure Bank. Okay, the ADB connection needs to be established right now. Success. And here we have it. Perfect. I also recommend using this Nexus emulator because the other one are more powerful and require more resources, but we do not need a powerful emulator right now. We need some basic concepts and that's good to go. Alright, starting this application we can see a lot of permissions. Files and media, something pretty interesting. We have to take a look into the SD card because there might be some files stored on a public available directory. SMS, also interesting, contacts, phone, call log, and location. Okay, continue. And this application has been built for an older version. Okay, not sure what's running right now. I guess Android 11, but it works perfectly fine on this one. Okay, we can simply click OK and then we should be good to go. All right, now if we open the web server, where do we have it? I guess it's this one. Yes. So let's put this on the left. Can we clear the screen? No, then we are running it simply once again. Okay. Now we're having this application and here we're having a web server. As an attacker, we do not have access to this log file over here because this is running on the real web server. We can only interact with the application on the device, but it's nice to see some debug log over here. Okay, let's see if everything works. Therefore, we should have, or we need to configure the web server first, but as already mentioned, if we click on these three dots, then we can see preferences. And here we can see the server IP is 10.0.2.2.80.80.80.80. Let's see, do we see this interface here? No, it's not a network interface within our Ubuntu VM, it's a network interface in the emulator right now. And this emulator is being provided, or this network interface, by the Android Studio. So we are having also this one running on this interface, which means if we click submit, then we can see save configuration successful, but we do not know if it's working. So therefore, let's try to log in. Admin. It lags a little bit, but for running it in another virtual machine, I guess it's fine. And I'm just using 8 GB of RAM. I guess that's not that much anymore. I grew up in a time where 128 MB was quite a big deal, but nowadays 8 GB, I guess that's pretty standard. Okay, we click login. And invalid credentials, so that's appearing here and we can see user does not exist. Okay, perfect. This works perfectly fine. I mean, here we have now this information leak that the user admin doesn't exist. But this is happening on the web server part, and as an attacker, we do not have access to this one. All right, this is the whole setup. I wish you good luck with this one, but most important, have some fun. Okay, as always, I will do the solution video afterwards in the next video, and there I will provide you some hints if you get stuck at a certain point. So therefore, let's go, and I see you in the next video.